Sahana. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidveshuvahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Shamno Mitraha Shambarunaha Shamno Bhavatvaryama Shamno Indra Brihaspati Shamno Vishnu Kramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayu Tvameva Pratjaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratjaksham Brahma Varishami Ritam Varishami Satcham Varishami Tanmam Avatu Tadvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Salutations to all beings. Salutations to humankind. Salutations to the ancestors. Salutations to the celestials and the demigods. Salutations to the gods and goddesses, the devas and devis. Salutations to the higher deities. Salutations to the rishis, seers and saints. Salutations to Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, God with form. And salutations to the formless Brahman. Thou art what is real, what is true, and what is beneficial. Therefore protect us, protect our teachers. Protect Guru, Dharma, and Sangha forevermore. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. And with that very universal chant, peace chant it's called, one of 7 in our tradition, we begin the 5th and final class of this series called India's Sanatana Dharma, or the eternal religion of India, which Sri Ramakrishna has said has been in existence from time immemorial and will continue on to be existing, giving the teachings of the Dharma, or this righteous yogic way of living that keeps in mind one's own consciousness and its connection with absolute reality. Swami Asheshanandaji Maharaj, my teacher, used to say, reality is a great ocean and the mind is a river. And the river has to meet the ocean in order to find its true purpose and its peaceful refuge. So the river of our consciousness is a stream of awareness that, or a stream of intelligent particles, I've been saying lately, that has to be directed. First it has to be awakened. You could call that anything from Kundalini power coming up the chakras, to enlightenment or nirvana, samadhi, 8 limbs of yoga leading to samyama. But it's one of the prerequisites that spiritual life requires of us. And so we're compelled to enter into a spiritual practice or a sadhana in order to charge up the chitta, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the mind stuff. The particles of our mind can get, like dull battery, can begin to fall out of consciousness, out of awareness, lose its concentration, and from there it's a matter of dull mind and scattered mind. What we want to bring it back is called alochana. It's a nice Sanskrit word. Speaking of words, alochana means deep thinkers. You have a deep thinking consciousness. chitta alochana, and that leads to chitta bhati, that is this light of consciousness. The mind all of a sudden unites itself with the light of consciousness, and it always feels, as Sri Ramakrishna again used to say, like a hot air balloon that has cut off its moorings and its sandbags, and it's always rising higher to higher places of awareness. So that's going to be enjoined upon a spiritual aspirant who wants to feel that divine elation, who comes into life and embodiment with the penchant or the program, the karma, to be able to rise out of Maya. And as Swami Sheshanandaji Maharaj, my teacher again, used to say, how can one be holy? One can be holy by making a hole. See, he said, there's a curtain called mind in Maya, and one needs to make a hole in that. So one needs to find a tool to make a hole in the curtain of Maya. The tool would be detachment, he said, from appearances, from Maya itself, and then renunciation of unreal things and so forth. This whole spiritual regimen which India teaches us in terms of these highest and inmost principles of truth. Sanatana Dharma is a good cover-all term for that. So in this 5th class, we want to look into that. If you remember, to connect us back to last Sunday, which was 1 week ago, which is one breath, one of Lord Brahma's breaths. It was 100 years is like 1 hour of his day, and 1,000 years is 1 day and 1 night, they say, or maybe longer. So as time goes by and it's nothing, so we must be able to connect our mind in meditation, both inner and outer, to these teachings and keep them in mind. Entertain them hour after hour, day after day, breath after breath, if it takes that. Sort of like you would naturally do a japa mantra. It's called, you're chanting the names of the Lord every time you take an in-breath, and the held breath and an out-breath is called a kind of japa. So if you were to remember God with every in-breath, every held breath, and every out-breath, then that would be a japa. It would be a chanting of the Lord's name, the nameless Brahman, the nameless formless Brahman would be inferred by every breath. Existence itself inferred by every breath. If you remember last week, we looked at that in terms of the unstruck sound and the unseen seer and the inanimate animator and so forth. We had that chart on the epithets of Brahman, how to give Brahman, this divine reality, names that seem rather contrary or contradictory to each other, but it's the only way to really get the mind past the idea of duality, is to pose these dualities against one another. So we looked at that, and we also looked at this chart on Om, you see, the great cause. And we were looking into that, and we almost finished it. In fact, except for a gradual review, I don't really have a lot to conclude about it, but it is a good connecting point, and part of today's teachings is about conjunctions. The Upanishads are very big on making connections for your spiritual life. Those are called vyahritis, or conjunctions, how to put together things that might even seem obvious to you, like mother, father, and progeny, or the three movements of your breath, in-breath, held breath, and out-breath. You need to make connections to these, otherwise they just happen and you're not participating in them. You're not participating in your own breathing process, see. So one of the early practices in both Buddhism and Vedanta is just to breathe and be conscious of the breath, and then be conscious of what's causing the breath. In Sanatana Dharma, you're always looking for origins. Like, the word for that in Sanskrit is utpatti. So if you read, for instance, Vashishta's Yoga, or Yoga Vashishta, it's a great scripture. He's got a whole section, a whole prakarna about utpatti, how the Indian seers have always looked into the origins of things, and in that way have connected themselves. It's a very, very profound teaching for this age, too, because most of us have fallen out of awareness of our own awareness. We're not conscious of our own consciousness. Remember, one one of my students had too many dogs around barking. And there were, on every fence, there was a beware of dog sign. So he went to his computer, and in big letters he printed out a bunch of signs that said, "Be aware of God," and put that on his fence. So we have to be aware of awareness, or conscious of consciousness is the idea. Like last week we said, like an Eskimo studies snow conditions, you should study your own consciousness, because your spiritual life depends on that, the way an Eskimo's life in the North Tundra depends on watching snow conditions. So it's a very subtle thing, and it's enjoined only on the spiritual aspirant who wants to dive deep into the meaning of God's life. Like the beautiful poem in the Gospel of Ramakrishna, "Dive deep, O mind, dive deep into the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. Light up, O mind, light up wisdom's shining lamp, and let it burn steadily and ceasingly, this flame within your heart." So those kinds of spiritual sentiments, deeper than sentiments, dharmic teachings, compel the aspirant to dive deep into the ocean of God's beauty. And usually we'll want to do that with a combination of 4 yogas, which we may look at today too. Those are connections we need to make. All of us have an active side and we have a passive side. We also have a devotional temperament, and we have a truth-seeking, wisdom temperament. Those are the 4 yogas, called bhakti, karma, jnana, and raja, or dhyan. So those 4 yogas, in order to be a well-rounded spiritual aspirant, we want to connect those together and use them in conjunction with one another. It's not just a philosophical axiom that you bring up and talk about. See, there are doctrines have been propounded by the thousands. There are millions of books, but oh, for an ounce of practice. Swami Vivekananda said that. Oh, for an ounce of practice. So those connections we'll talk about today. I'm giving you kind of a preamble to this final class. We'll want to talk maybe a little bit about the 4 yogas as one of India's great teachings, Sanatana Dharma, and also the teaching of connections, or vyaharitis, how to bring sometimes things that are very obvious but of which have been forgotten together for your benefit, to benefit your spiritual life. Because in India they feel consciousness is existence, and if you're conscious of consciousness, then all of a sudden you'll be a participant in every aspect of your life, whereas before you were just sort of a passive observer. Different than a passive observer would be an all-knowing witness of consciousness. But in between those 2 poles would be this desire to animate your spiritual life, to inspire yourself. That aspiration is a very important part of the spiritual path. So one of the things, for instance, then that could animate you would be hearing this sound of Om. So, if thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. So there's a similar teaching around the inner ear, so that when you hear this great sound, it's like a sound of waves breaking on a distant ocean, but you haven't approached the ocean yet, so you have to walk and walk over sandbars, you see, as it were, because you hear this distant sound, till finally you hear it roaring very close, and you break over the last sandbar, last sand dune that is, and you see the ocean there with all its waves and sailboats and children and colors and sunlight. And so in that way they say, follow this inner sound when you hear it. So of the many great principal teachings of India's Sanatana Dharma, the principle of A-U-M, Om, would be one of the most prominent. And you'll find it in all the darshanas of India, astika or nastika. That means traditional or non-traditional, orthodox or non-orthodox. They all have this deep affection for and connection with Om, the word. It's in Vedanta, of course, the Vedic science, and Tantra also yoga, and the father of yoga is like an emblem for yogic practice, and Buddhism. So you'll find this is very important. And last week we looked at that and found out that Sri Ramakrishna had likened it to the sound of a bell, and also to a huge, massive object falling into a great ocean and causing this sound. So there's this upheaval of name and form comes out of this formless reality. Remember, we looked at that in terms of Nitya, Lila, and Nitya, starting out from the formless, inactive, stationary consciousness, and then that breaks into manifestation. Vibration happens, and then that vibration is quelled and it goes back into the formless Brahman again. That's all the business of striking this bell. Striking the bell is rather an interesting proposal, because the Tantras say nobody strikes this sound of Om. It's ringing all the time. So it's a matter of consciousness utilizing it. In fact, this sixth chakra here is two-petaled. And quite often they say that's like consciousness coming out of the seventh chakra, the ocean of Brahman, and beginning to take on form. And then when it gives up form, it goes back to the other petal and reaches the state of Brahman again. So this Om would be a passageway, a two-doored passageway, or a two-petaled passageway in which consciousness can pass into form and back out of form. And there's probably plenty of evidence for that in your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state. Guess what else waking, dreaming, and deep sleep are about? Om. A-U and M stand for waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and for the gross world, the subtle world, and the causal world. And that's what we looked at, all of these significances of that three-lettered, three-matras word. It even holds within it the 5 spaces, 5 kinds of space. If I were to take that apart, see, then there's the Bhutakasha. That's the space of solid objects, planets, suns, and objects and trees and so forth, stones. And then the second is the Pranakasha, you see here. Bhutakasha, then Pranakasha is the space of energy, but not just kinetic or electric energy. It's the energy of Divine Mother of the Universe. It's her energy. It's life force, it's called. Man does not live by bread alone, lives by this other energy. So inside of that is the second Akasha, and inside of that is the third Akasha. See, and that's called the Chit Akasha, you see here, after Pranakasha, Chit Akasha, the space of Chit, mind, thought. See, so that's thought. Inside of that then they squeak nicely too, is the Jnana Akasha, the space of wisdom. And then inside of that, is there an inside? The inmost is the Chit Akasha. It's like Upanishad saying there, in your heart, the size of a thumb. See, a little bit to the left of the breastbone is the Atman, you see, encaged in the 5 sheaths. So the 5 sheaths could also represent this, you see. This Russian dolls, sometimes Japanese dolls too, because the Japanese got a hold of it. It signifies that not just a nice child's toy or something, but it's very apropos for describing the nature of the 5 worlds. That is the 5 akashas. Akasha is a very rare word in Sanskrit that we don't have an equivalent for here. We only know of one space, ether. And we don't even include that sometimes, because since it can't be experienced with the senses, ether, but yet it's infusing and permeating everything, we don't even account for ether. It's one of those connections that we haven't made. But Einstein was beginning to include that idea into his thinking. Einstein said, got the idea from Gandhi, I think. He said, Gandhi is the greatest man walking the planet today. That's what Einstein said about Mahatma Gandhi. So these ideas that come from subtle ether, the teachings of Sanatana Dharma can make their way over to another culture. Sometimes it takes hundreds and hundreds of years. And sometimes it's approached through scientific investigation of the outer to get to the inner. But if you forget to work your way back into the source, Utpatti, the origin of the outer, then you'll tend to forget the U and M of Om. You'll tend to forget the space of energy, the space of thought, and the space of intelligence, and the space of spirit, Chittakasha. You see that little thumb-like Atman that dwells in every being. And then you'll be only left with the Buddhakasha. Does it sound familiar? There's only one world, they say, and that's just a physical one for them. So this 5 Russian dolls teaching is always handy to bring out. It's how you can teach children of all ages, as they say, that there are many, many worlds within you, or the kingdoms of heaven are within you, or my Father's mansion has many chambers, however you want to put that, so that you begin to develop an interest for exploring these inner realms. You're doing it in your dreams, and in your deep sleep you're transcending that kind of play or sport. You see the Leela here. But you're not aware of them when you wake back up, so there must be a curtain of nescience that falls back over your awareness, causing you to forget what you experienced in a deeper state. And what to speak of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, which is what this word signifies, AUM. There's also superconscious awareness, that is the Turyatita. You see beyond, there's this little one-eyed smile, I call it, the Om sign, that's called Turya, which is beyond Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. That's waking, dreaming, and deep sleep to the rishis of India. And so to remember superconscious awareness would be the ultimate teaching, the ultimate attainment, called samadhi or nirvana and so forth. So you're going to want to, you don't want to risk losing that kind of awareness, not just what you mentioned of losing the very levels of your own being. You don't want to lose that all-pervading superconscious awareness called Brahman. That's why we chanted salutations to humans, to the ancestors, to the celestials, to the gods and goddesses, to the rishis, and to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? But then the chant ended, and salutations to the formless Brahman, because thou art what is real, what is true, and what is beneficial. As if all those other things, from human mind all the way up to the Trinity, are in Maya, are full of change, are cycling all the time. Only Brahman remains the same. The many change in paths, the one remains the same. Life is a many-colored dome that stains the pure white light of reality, said the poet Shelley. So there are beings, both East and West, who have realized this all-abiding light of pure conscious awareness, which is at the foundation, the essence of your life, the essence of your very being, the essence of your thinking, and the essence of your very awareness that's lying as the underlying substratum or foundation that most beings are entirely unaware of. How can you become unaware of awareness or unconscious of your own consciousness? You must not be studying snow conditions very well. That is, if you studied the changes of Maya, then you would want to back off from it. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, never study Maya close up. Always get far away from it and study it from a distance, else it will pull you in. It will pull in a scientist, it will pull in an astronomer, it will pull in all these beings who are involved in secular sciences and make them think that what they're studying is real, is true, is actual. But what about the formless Brahman? Thou art what is true. Thou art what is real. Thou art what is truly beneficial. Right? You're forgetting the foundation of time-space causation, the underlying substratum, your own consciousness. And every laboratory should tell you that. Every one of these akashas that are caught within one another, they're permeated by the ether of Brahman, if you want to use that as an analogy. And in the center there at the heart, where all the subtle nerve endings meet, lies the Atman. Stationary but becoming manifold. Right? It's ever stationary, but it gives off the power of Shakti, and through the power of Shakti causes everything to become manifested and animated. And then this power will withdraw it all back at the end of time and cycle, and it'll all return to Brahman. So this is why these systems of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, the subtle body, the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body, those actually go together very well, right? The gross body is in the gross world, the subtle body is in the subtle world, that is dreaming, and the causal body is in deep sleep, Sushupti, the third world. And Om, AUM signifies all those things. And the 5 akashas play into that. We also look at how these 7 worlds, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, which are familiar to us as the Gayatri mantra, and then Maharloka, Janaloka, Taparloka, and Brahmaloka, sometimes called Satyaloka, are also 7 worlds contained within that. They all leading up to the sound of Om, or the word, that was in the beginning, that was with God, and that was God, as Jesus said. And we looked at these 24 cosmic principles of Lord Kapila, one of the most ancient of India's Sanatana Dharma's teachings, that everyone borrowed from Lord Kapila's time onward. Everyone based their philosophy in one way or another on the 24 cosmic principles, which is pretty much 25 if you add in the cosmic mind. So what you have is 5 senses, 5 active senses, 5 knowledge senses, and then you have 5 subtle elements and 5 gross elements. That's 20, and then you have a 5-fold mind. 5-fold mind is ego, thought, intelligence, and dual mind itself. And then you have the cosmic mind there as a 5th. So in terms of 5s, everything comes marching out from Brahman, like these 5 dolls, 5 kinds of space. And then in terms, they all come marching back in. One's called projection, and the other's called withdrawal. And in between periods of projection and withdrawal, there's this sustaining power. So that's why we say salutations to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, because they're at the hub of these 3 powers of projection, sustenance, and withdrawal. So we have to salute them. So hopefully they'll make our ride of 500 million years or more smooth and easy. See, hopefully we can get off the wheel in one lifetime if we want. Like Lord Buddha said, must get out of the river to see what goes by, to know how everything is cycling, and you might want to get off the cycle, off the merry-go-round of life. Become holy and make a hole in the curtain of Maya, and pass through it to this ultimate reality, which is your very true nature, so there's no reason why you shouldn't do it. So just a quick run through again of this great bell chart on Om. Tom, that's the striking of the bell, is projection, and then the O in the middle, or the U if you want, is the sustaining power, and then at the end, the bell comes to an end, that's the dissolving power. And it all came out of the bell. It was all inherent in the bell before it was struck. And that's the most profound teaching of the Om teaching, is that there's no real beginning or ending to anything. There's just consciousness all the time, and it's unmanifested at one point, and then it becomes manifested, and then it dissolves itself back into its essence again at the end, like a salt doll in an ocean, Sri Ramakrishna said. it will congeal, and then it will dissolve itself. So, knowing this, then one becomes a knower of the Word. Beings come to perfect the Word in the body, on earth, you see, so that they can master their waking state, they can master their dreaming state, and then they can master their deep sleep state. And if you master each one of those states and then put them all together, then you're called a knower of the Word, and you can become a knower of Brahman. So that's a very ancient and profound science in India from time out of mind. And it's one that's long-lived. That means eternal, Sanatana. It's long-lived. Beings will think about it in every lifetime. The minute they come into the crib or cradle, they might hear Om, you see. And then they might contemplate it their whole lifetime. So my teacher used to say, from the cradle to the grave, teach your children about these great teachings that are coming from the Word. There's the Word, and there's all those words that come out of it as vibrations. And they're all pregnant with Shakti power, Shamkrishna said. Have immense power inside of each word. Just like there's immense physical energy inside an atom if you split it. But if you split an atom of your own intelligence, then there's an immense power, you see, for good, for highest good. If you split the atom, there's an immense power for potential evil and destruction. So you must rather become an observer of the inner laboratory and begin to split these atoms of your own intelligence so that you can release a great power for the highest good. May good betide all. May truth come to all. May all see the face of truth and be fortified by the armor of love. My teacher used to say at the end of every talk. May good betide all. May truth come to all. May all see the face of truth and be fortified by the armor of love. He would end most of his talks like that. And then everyone could let their breath out. Now I have to go think about everything he told me. You see. Well, I brought with me this causality, origins, and reincarnation chart to connect you up to some of the teachings on the chart about Om. So that's where we will move to now in this first half of our fifth and final class on India's Sanatana Dharma series. We'll be coming back in about a month of Sundays after this to present a class series called Meeting Mother Kali, and to try and familiarize the West with this ferocious deity, Divine Mother Warrioress, that needs to be comprehended a little bit more in this day and age, and see her significance and that immense power of Shakti that's within her. But in the meantime, here we will conclude this class, and one of the teachings we want to look at then is this causality, origins, and reincarnation. So I rather brought it not so much to go through it all, but to point out the cause of things. So what I did in this chart was to point out some 7 or 8 different layers of cause and effect that we need to look into if we want to be definitive Vedantic students. We want to be yogic aspirants. We want to be tantric worshippers. We want to be Buddhist practitioners. That's all India, right? If we want to be nonviolent Jains. If we want to be follower of any of these great systems, which are all property, as it were, of India's Sanatana Dharma, then we are going to want to look at different layers of cause and effect. Now, this was a good way of showing those cause and effect coming out of Om, these 5 worlds. I'll put that together later when I dissolve the worlds of name and form back into my own consciousness. Too much to do right now. But let's look at another series of cause and effects here that have to do with some 7 levels. So if you just look at this part of it, there's the material cause, then there's called the efficient cause. Next is the primordial cause, then the subtle cause, then the cosmic cause, then the remote cause, and then the causeless cause. Now, last week we had a chart on Brahman, the epithets of Brahman, and we looked at that in terms of the unseen seer and the unknown knower and the unstruck sound. We had different appellations for Brahman. And so Brahman would be the causeless cause, would be another way of saying that. And then Om would be the remote cause. You see it here, listed. Primordial sound, the unstruck sound of the word. And if you came down, or let's call it out, so we're coming out from this infinite ocean of Brahman. If you work your way down to the third level of cause and effect, it would be a cosmic cause, and there you'd find what the Tantrists call spandas, or cosmic laws. Cosmic laws are that which would direct the entire universe, but when we explain this in Indian Sanatana Dharma, we want to appeal to your higher intelligence to think beyond gravitation, maybe think beyond electricity, think beyond two objects bumping together as cause and effect, anything that science has to say about that. When we're talking about cosmic laws here, cosmic, the word cosmic means a very deep level of your own consciousness. It's transcended the physical. So you have laws like what Maya dictates, where Maya begins, and you have Vidya, where knowledge begins, where wisdom actually originates. That would be like in the Jnanakosha, you see, of one of these deep spaces inside you is a space of wisdom. You can visit there. If you think about these teachings, you can actually, the mind will actually begin to move in to have what's called sampragyata samadhi. Father of Yoga says it's wisdom samadhi. So you're beginning to think about the teachings, and the teachings are having a profound effect on you, and you spend hours just in meditation on the teachings alone. So your consciousness is actually shifted from the physical world to the mental world, from the mental world to the intellectual world, to the world of intelligent principles. So this is their origin. This is where they came from. This is the cause of everything else. We have to, if we're going to, with any fealty and any adeptship, follow the Vedantic teachings, then we have to realize that they're thinking about cause and effect from the causeless cause all the way down to the universe as something that's coming out of consciousness with a capital C. It's pure conscious awareness, they would say, or timeless, deathless awareness. And it has deeper and deeper reaches or climbs. Like Lord Buddha said, the swans get tired of their pristine mountain lake, they'll fly to the next higher set of mountains, to the next higher lake, then to the next higher lake. Like souls, never satisfied with anything that's of inferior grade or middling grade. They always want to find their way to the highest and most pristine waters, where there they can rest in peace. That's Lord Buddha's way of speaking, how souls will seek their true essence in meditation and reach this oneness. I and my Father are one kind of status. And that way they can go up and down these 7 levels of cause and effect, or they can go in and out of these 5 worlds of space, 5 kinds of space, or they can move in and out of TOM, the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep of Om. However you put this in the different systems of India, it has to do more with consciousness as it reincarnates, as it takes on forms and gives them up, and how adept it can become at that. Until finally it's not just a master, but it's a past master. You see great beings like Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda coming, and well, there's a past master. It's not just a master of an ordinary kind, so to speak. There's a past master that can move up and down the amber stairs of birth and death at ease and full capacity of its consciousness. So I was just saying that this evolution that takes place is going to be accompanied by an involution. You see these arrows? This is what this means. Everything is there's a chain of evolutes. the Lord of Samkhya, Lord Kapila says, from the cosmic mind all the way down to the element earth. There you see it. You see it like food. And then there's a reverse chain of evolutes that go inward all the way back up to the cosmic and remote cause. So Jesus was trying to tell John this, that in the beginning was the Word. So that's the remote cause of everything. This is the cause of everything here. But there were several levels of degree of intensity of vibration that had to happen before we found ourselves here on earth. And if you practice a dissolution of the mind stream kind of meditation, you can, within minutes, even within an hour maybe, or within minutes, take all of this back up to your highest cause and then project it all again. It doesn't have to happen in one lifetime, from birth to life to death, but you can become so adept at this that you see it all inside of yourself and you move through it with your mental awareness, your capacity, all the way up to dissolution, see the light, and then all come back down. And that's what a good meditation entails. It's also what a conscious waking, dreaming, and deep sleep process entails. But you have to have your consciousness there on hand to see it. The curtain of nescience, or the curtain of Maya, cannot be in the way for this, you see, because you'll forget it as soon as you've experienced it. That's why sometimes you make a distinction between existence and essence. There's a teaching in Vedanta that's very powerful. Existence, like Satchidananda, that's very well and good as you describe Brahman in that way, but to think of the essence of something that's in all of those is a higher teaching according to Vedanta. My Swami Sheshananda Maharaj used to make that comparison quite often. Essence that is deeper than existence. So the Swarupa is your very nature. It's your sentient awareness. It's you in full, or I in full. I mean, if we soon want to look at these, I am all, I am Atman, I am Brahman, these great sayings have to do with this, realizing this essence that is your own nature. It's your own true nature. So this is a key teaching of Sanatana Dharma. Just so you understand that some of these cosmic laws operate a third tier of cause here, a very subtle level of cause. Subtle, it's coming next, but a cosmic level of cause. You can see like time, space, and causation are there. So, and then niyata, kalas, and raga. It's phases of time and attraction. Raga is attraction. So at some very deep and distinct level of our own consciousness, we got attracted. We used the power of attraction to take on our forms. See, it's a cosmic law that we all have within us, and we have to pass through. It's how some of us get attracted to higher levels of consciousness, and some of us forget as we come down this level of ladder of cause and effect. You see, to retain your consciousness as you come down this ladder of cause and effect is the past masters doing. You see, they don't forget once they fall here. Imagine your own life and the life of your children and the life of your schoolmates. Did any of them know about higher teachings, or were they just in the body and had totally forgotten God and totally forgotten their own consciousness? They didn't have a meditation practice. They didn't have parents that taught them the Dharma. This was all Greek to them. Their consciousness wasn't in tow by the time it reached the level of food, energy, sperm, ovum, body, active senses, cognitive senses, and birth. Human brain. To have all of this without consciousness attached to it, you see, what folly is that? So you began to seek a higher cause for everything. And so you came to know about the efficient cause, nature and the three gunas, for instance, and the 5 elements, you see. And the 3 gunas, inertia, activity, and balance, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the great elements. So you came to know about these, and you came to know about them not just as existing in one little Russian doll, but that they were all contained within another level of energy called primordial cause, and that's where you found life force. That's where you find Jesus coming to you saying, man does not live by bread alone. There's a different life force power that upholds this whole world. Prana is the life force by which I uphold all the worlds. That's a saying from the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam by the goddess herself. The prana is the life force by which I uphold all the worlds. So you can't see this life force at its cause, you only see its effect. You see that trees grow, you know that eyes see, you know that ears hear, you know that arms move, you know that lips flap, which mine are doing a lot of right now. But you don't see that prana as the cause of all these things, you see. So it's one of the levels you're going to have to graduate to, and that's why you breathe. That's why they have you breathe. A person comes in front of a teacher and is not breathing much and is not aware and says, help me, help me. Well, first thing I want you to do is sit up straight and breathe. It's just yoga. It's just basic yoga, right? Asana and pranayama. Come on, let's take in some air. Let's get your vital force moving. Let's get the human brain opened up and all the channels to it so that it can see deeper and deeper levels of its own consciousness that it's been fallen asleep to. See? And then once you've awakened to that, see if you can stay awake. It's not like, oh, I'm awake now, I'm asleep again. You see, like, that's a habit we have every 24 hours. I'm awake now I'm asleep. I think I'm going to wake up now, I'm going to go back to sleep. This causes a habit in you that thinks that consciousness wakes and sleeps, but it doesn't. Consciousness is ever awake. And our teacher used to say that's yogic insomnia. When you get yogic insomnia, then you're in an ever-awake state. And you know that body and brain go through periods of rest, waking and sleeping, but that the consciousness that's in them stays awake all the time. It's powered by a finer fuel, you see, that comes from this efficient and primordial cause. It knows about 5 elements that consciousness here doesn't know about. And earth, air, fire, water, and ether need to have causes. Where did they come from? Nature? Not nature alone, see, but it came from the idea, the energy that makes earth move as lava, the energy that makes water, the energy that burns in fire, the energy that permeates air and ether. This is prana. So this is called a primordial cause to things. So if you're looking for what animates everything, you're going to have to become aware of the prana. And prana has, according to Swami Vivekananda, a finer form. It's called psychic prana. When you can awaken the prana, then you can breathe, you can enjoy your food better, you can enjoy life more, you become a happy animal, you see. Not an unhappy animal anymore, but you're just a happy animal, and prana is flowing through you. But now you need to awaken this next level or echelon of divine energy called psychic prana, and that's where subtle cause and cosmic cause kick in. So now you're talking about mind, thought, ego, and intelligence. So that's your antakarna right there, fourfold mind, and its desire for life and its desire for activity. Karma, kama, manas, chitta, ahamkara, and buddhi. That's what Shankara calls the subtle body in the Viveka Chudamani, his great scripture, the crest jewel of discrimination, if you've read that. Great work by Shankara. So he has pretty much told us that this is the subtle body right there. It's what it consists of. So that's the U of M we're talking about. And it also contains 3 of these worlds in it. Prana, Chitta, and Jnana. See, the 3 of the worlds are contained right there in the subtle body. It's not till things become more formless that you get to deep sleep, or you get to the M of Om, or you take all the worlds of name and form and render them formless. See, now you're beyond you're beyond time, space, and causation as it manifested itself, but you still have to find out where time, space, and causation originated from. Because if you don't find out where they originated from, you can't put this back to sleep. You can't put it back into a formless state. That's what the problem of most people is. That's why they reincarnate, because they have a desire for life and activity, because they don't know anything beyond the subtle cause, where it came from. So they're going to have to trace themselves back up to this cosmic cause. One of the things that you meditate on is Ishvara, to do that. See this word, Ishvara? Chosen ideal, it means. You have to select a chosen ideal. That's part of your karmic neutralization work, is to get yourself in touch with this antaryami. There's no word for it really in English, but in Sanskrit they have a very definite, powerful word for it, antaryami, the inner ruler immortal seated in your heart. So this is the finest form of God that exists in the realm of Maya. You see, in fact, it's pretty much beyond Maya. It's the master of Maya. So, but it still is accompanied by form. Cosmic mind is there. Nature in its seed form is there. Nature, remember, this is all nature, right? But where did it come from? Unmanifested nature. And that's held in seed form in the great mind of God, Mahat. See? And unstruck sound is there at that level, Om, and the primordial soul called the Ishvara form, the great soul. But Patanjali, the father of yoga, said there is one unique soul, unlike any other. That's Ishvara. He mentions it twice in the Yoga Sutras. Patanjali is not really big on deities. He's not really tantric, but he does mention Ishvara twice in the sutras, and he mentions mantra and japa practice once or twice too. So he does know about these tantric elements, but he's got this eight-limb system he wants you to follow, you see. And you don't have to believe in God to follow it. That's one of the beautiful things about yoga. You don't have to be a believer or a disbeliever. You can pretty much cast that out, follow this yoga, and find out for yourself who and what God is. And in his way of thinking, you are that God. But we can't tell you that yet, see, because you haven't gotten rid of your ignorance. See? My teacher used to say that to us in talks. He says, well, what's the cause for all your problem? Well, I hate to tell you this, but it's ignorance. I'm sitting here in front of a very intellectual Western audience, calling them ignorant, is what he was saying, because they don't know anything about these other levels of cause and effect. The words cause and effect, or nimitta, you see, right there, represent a very, very high level of spiritual thinking. You must think in terms of utpatti, or cause and effect, in order to understand this. If you only trace the effect of what you see, hear, touch, taste, and smell at the level of the five senses and the five elements, and you haven't traced them back to their cause in the mind, then how can you be taught spiritual truths? You'll gravitate, you'll fall, like water seeking the lowest place to settle. And what you really want is to be a hot air balloon that, that is cutting off sandbag after sandbag, and until it just discovers the infinite. You have to be infinite, not infantile. You want to be pure, not puerile. However way you want to put that, you want to unleash your own consciousness and let it soar. Like our great koa e ula bird here in Hawaii on the cliffs of Kauai. Just soars and hardly ever touches the earth. In fact, its only home is in the cliffs up high. You never see it in the lowlands. So your soul must be like that great bird that always soaring. And if it knows and has made contact with the Word and with Ishvara, well then pretty much Om, and Brahman, or Om Namah Shivaya. or you know Om Mani Padme Hum, or you know Om Shri Sharda. Doctor says an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? That's the old adage. But I say a shar a day keeps all illness away. Shar a day. A shar a day keeps all illness away. So sing shar a day, shar a day, shar a day. It's the name of the Divine Mother of the Universe. Shar a day, oh shar a day, Vidya Vinashane, shar a day. She's the remover of all obstacles. Vidya Vinashane. Brahma Sanatani, shar a day. She's the eternal principle of Brahman. Brahma Sanatani. Atita Pavani Sharade. She's the savior of the fallen and the lowly ones. Prema Swarupine Sharade. She's the essence of ecstatic love for God. Karuna Rupini Sharade. She's the epitome of compassion for all suffering beings. Namo Narayani Sharade. She's the eternal principle of Brahman. So a Sharade keeps all illness away. Just say Sharade, 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 and realize the essence of consciousness inside of you. So there are steps to this process. It's too simple to think I can go on a 30-day retreat, meditate, and I'll be fine, you see. And it's too simple to think, if I just meditate an hour a day for the rest of my life, I'll be fine. You might keep a rudder on your boat that way, but the boat has to have a destination, you see. And so that destination is enlightenment. It is pure conscious awareness. It's Brahman. It's nameless, formless reality. It's beyond time, space, and causality. But what's troubling you and keeping you from it is time, space, and causality. And part of what is keeping you from that, because of time, space, and causality, is because you haven't traced them to their source in the cosmic cause. Once you can get beyond time, space, and causation at the source, that is, where they originate. Remember, Brahman is unoriginated. It doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end, but all of these things have cycles. So once you can get beyond these cosmic laws, then you can reach the great mind, Mahat. You can reach the key to your deep sleep state, where all the seeds came from, unmanifested nature, unmanifested Prakriti comes. You can get a mantra with Om attached to it, and you can say it to the Lord in the highest concept of name and form that you can think of, so that you can conceive of. That's called Ishvara. Then you've reached the remote cause. This is the most remote outpost. This is your most pristine, distant retreat. It's like a high mountain retreat that you want to go to. And once reaching that, then you have a chance to see the formless Brahman. You have a chance to see your own true nature, because you're seeing an exemplar of that right before you. Your Guru should be an exemplar of that Ishvara on this plane of existence, you see. And should be teaching you these things so that you yourself can become yourself, pure and perfect. Perfection. That is the innate or original, inherent perfection of your own pristine consciousness. So take a pilgrimage, go on retreat. See, the songs of India sing to this most remote of all causes, and there bow down at the shrine of your own self. There you'll find your own self as the consummate devotee of the Supreme Lord in human form. That is, in cosmic form here, and manifested on earth in human form. Beyond that, then there's just Shakti and Brahman and Shakti. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Brahman and Shakti are one, like fire and its power to burn. Well, you wouldn't understand that very well if you hadn't have come upon fire, meditated upon fire, and seen where it came from. See, fire is just intelligence. The power to burn away darkness is the power to burn away ignorance. See? So intelligence and fire are connected to one another. They're purificatory elements. So where is the origin of fire? Where is the origin of a billion suns in the physical universe? It's there inside the next level of your consciousness as the idea of a sun. See, the idea of something that knows no darkness. You say a sun knows no darkness, right? So you take that as an object for meditation, and I am a great sun, and now all darkness cannot come near me. See, or I'm a great ocean. And I surround everything. I'm an ocean of sorrowless light, as Father of Yoga has said. And so you just need to know the origins of all these things. So this is how reincarnation can be looked at. Now let's look at a couple of these quotes to bring these points home. King Janaka says, "The ability to project worlds of name and form, seemingly actual, in space and time, furthers the circle of influence of cause and effect. With the curbing of the unruly mind's penchant for Mayic manufacturing comes instant freedom from the trammels of relativity. This liberating process is facilitated by tracing origins." So, Sankalpa, he's talking about the ability of the human mind to project worlds of name and form in time and space. All comes from the cosmic mind on down. Mahat, there's the cosmic laws that dictate it. Here's the mind, and there's the energy that comes from mind, and there's the five elements and the gunas, and then here's the material cause for everything, right on down to food. See, it all comes from cosmic mind on down. So he's saying that's all sankalpa, mental projection. But it furthers the influence of the how does he put it? The influence of cause and effect. See, so this is all about causality, right? So this becomes more impressed upon your thinking consciousness to where it becomes so deeply rooted in you that you think this world is all that exists. Matter is all that exists. And you don't question where the worlds came from. They came from within you. The kingdoms of heaven are within you, Christ said. So he had a whole different trajectory and a whole different way of teaching rather than physical science, which teaches Big Bang and something out of nothing, a kind of thinking or theorems. See. But Christ is telling you about how these are all contained within you, and you needed to trace them there. Then he says, Mayic manufacturing comes to an end, and the travels of relativity come to an end when you trace origins. So it's seems rather complex when you put it into 7 levels of cause and effect, but basically this is one way of looking at it. You can look at it as dissolving the mind stream. You can look at it as the 3 levels of your consciousness, AUM of Om. You can look at it as the 5 Russian dolls, how all of this is contained back inside of itself. And there are different ways in which the India Sanatana Dharma proposes it to you, and it happened in different phases of time through many thousands of years that these darshanas, or these clear ways of seeing, that's what darshana means, got introduced to people of particular times so that they could work their way back and always have this spiritual refuge, always have this anchor which to ground themselves with when they were out here in the realms of name and form. in the outermost regions of your consciousness, where everything is dumbed down to the object, where consciousness is actually focused on the object, whether it be the world or the objects of the senses and pleasure. That's what everyone is focused on, and having forgotten all the riches of the kingdoms of heaven within them. So, if you come down, if you want to take a quote for these, a quote for causeless cause would be, "Inner analysis brings the first real glimmerings of spirituality. In that light, the soul perceives the assumed happenstance of cause and effect. In a series of deep recollections, it scrutinizes life, even to infanthood, and glimpses past lifetimes. By perceiving its origin, it courts freedom." So, of course, if you were someone like Lord Vashishtu, who was one of the mind-born sons of Lord Brahma, which is right there at the Ishvara level, if you were him, then you would have been taught from a very early age to look at your past lifetimes, to neutralize your karma, to connect everything back to your past lifetime. So you'd get glimpses of your past lifetime on purpose. It's not like, say, deja vu, where they were just coming in your 80 or 100-year lifestyle, and once in a while something occurs to you that makes you think that you might have been here before, kind of idea. But you're actually doing this on purpose as a practice. And this is what sadhana entails. Holy Mother has made that pronouncement that there are three requirements or factors involved in enlightenment. The first is time, the second is practice, and the third is karma, destroying karma. So you need time to practice so that you can destroy your karmas, is what she's saying. And destroying your karmas means to get rid of bad karmas, yes, but it also means that you must connect your lifetimes to their origins. If you find out that your lifetimes have been connected to the ancestors for a long time, then you need to break the chain of rebirth with your ancestors. Buddha did that for us on a cosmic level. He was very big about breaking through the cause and effect chain of ancestor worship. He pretty much threw it away and said there is suffering, the Four Noble Truths. He replaced it with the Four Noble Truths and had people begin to look towards their own Buddha nature for the solutions rather than to conventional religion that was happening at the time. So he wanted you to begin to gather drops in the Dharma bucket, do practice and so forth. Buddhism emphasizes practice. Judaism and Christianity emphasizes organizations, religious organizations, but Buddhism emphasized practice. So it wanted you to yourself remake yourself, cut yourself in that image that they talk about. And so with that done, then you could begin to see some of these higher climbs of your own consciousness, climb to these higher climbs of your own consciousness. So Vashishta wants you to look back into infanthood, meditate on yourself all the way back to your birth and then prior to your birth. The Tibetan Buddhists are very big on that too. They want you to look at the bardo that happens after death and before your next rebirth. Sperm and vital energy and food to the ovum, creates the physical body. They want you to look that far back and ask yourself, where were you when this was going on? You were outside of your parents, outside of your mother's womb, that is, looking on as a witness and watching this process happen. And then you chose your parents and you projected yourself into the physical body, hopefully after it was already knit together, after 8 months, so that you escape the suffering of being knit together in a body. And you just put your consciousness into the form of the fetus and the infant, you see. So they want you to look that far back to cause and effect, and then prior to that, ask you, what is it that's incarnating? That would be the next question you would ask. I incarnated as a human, but what is it that's incarnating? And where did it come from? It had to be something, controlling or producing this situation, cause and effect style. How did I fall so low? There's a beautiful story, in fact, Vishishta tells about a great rishi who got disoriented coming to earth. He saw a beautiful moonlit scene under a full moon and snow falling. And he got hypnotized by the snow falling, so he became snow. Then, when the summer came, it melted the snow. The snow nourished the crops. The farmer picked the crops, ate them, turned them into sperm, and gave them into the womb of the mother. And then he became born in human form. So he got disoriented when he fell into Maya and got hypnotized by snow and became the sperm, the son of his farmer father, and that's how he turned from a rishi into the son of a farmer. Then he had a series of lifetimes where he had to transcend, and pretty soon he became a Brahmin priest, and then pretty soon he became a wandering free man, a yogi, and after that became after that, remembered his father, who was a great rishi, and reunited himself with his father at this level of the remote cause. So this whole beautiful story Vishishta tells in Vishishta's Yoga about this fall of the soul into food. So the question to ask in all that there is, what is it that's incarnating? Can physical matter do that, or is there an energy there? Can energy do that alone without a director, or without a projecting power? And where does that projecting power comes from? The mind. And that mind, what is it based upon? It's based upon these cosmic laws, and the cosmic mind, it's beyond it, you see. From individual to collective to cosmic mind. That's again A, U, and M. So it's another three significance, a triputi they call it. That's a significance in the word Om, A-U-M. So all of these things are connections you will make, which is what I want to talk about after the break. I'll show you another teaching on the connections that the Vedicists wanted you to make in early times. Now, here, Vivekananda has a quote: differentiation between jiva, that's embodied being, and Ishvara is right if one is a dualist. But for Advaitins, this notion of jiva as distinct from God is the cause of bondage. So if you're a non-dualist, you're not going to think, I am my father, or two. You're going to think, I am that thou art. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Because if to think any other way would be the cause of bondage, you would fall into the idea of two-ness and you'd accept it. And from the idea of two-ness would become manyness. The only two-ness that would be allowed here is here, Brahman and Shakti. The illumined souls allow themselves that kind of very pure and refined duality. It means Brahman and Shakti, that's all that exists for them. The fire and its burning power again is Brahman and Shakti, see, at the highest level. So you jump from fire to intelligence, and from intelligence to Shakti. And Shakti, you put it together with Brahman. Water and its wetness, same thing, you see. You would make these connections inside, and there you would, your consciousness would become graduated, see. I mean, it's difficult to speak of because consciousness is always one and changeless, but there is the embodied soul called Purusha. See what level it occupies here? The very lowest rung of the cosmic cause. There's the individual soul right there, which is different than the ego, by the way. There is a Purusha. In fact, that was from Lord Copula's system. It started with Purusha, didn't it? And then it went down into the 24 cosmic principles. These all started with Purusha. There are two eternally existing entities, Copula said, Purusha and Prakriti, the soul and nature. So his form of two-ness was sentiency and insentiency. And one had come out of the other. So out of the soul comes all of this. So you wouldn't blame all of this on Ishvara, on God. God wasn't responsible for that. Why? Because he can't be a cause of anything. He's causeless. You have to leave him where he is, pure and perfect. In fact, you can't even call him a he. See, he and she disappeared right about there. See, and she took over, and then it became formless reality. So, as you study a system like this, then these connections start to occur to you, and you entertain them, and you remember things from your cosmic past. This isn't just seeing yourself, oh, I was, Mary Queen of Scots in another lifetime. Like, at some New Age party you're talking with some people. This is like real, serious work of a spiritual aspirant to recover this wisdom and to connect it then to his own true self, his own individual soul, the Purusha, and find out why and when the Purusha began to project all this. And if it projected all this and forgot itself, so now there are people running around saying there's no soul, then, he's a materialist, right? Or he's an atheist. Or maybe a little better, he's an agnostic. He hasn't made up his mind yet, you see. But whatever the case is, he's definitely forgotten half of the whole picture. And this is the connections that the soul will have to make in order to recall himself to himself or herself. And it's not like you can't take, that you don't need friend in higher places, right? You need friends in higher places, and it's not like you can't take refuge in them. There's one, and there's one. You can go straight to the source, you get to the Father through the Son, and you can take Ishvara, and you can take his word, and you can take his mantra, and you can begin meditating on him, and this will happen quickly for you. So it'll all be put into perspective for you. You can explore it later. Sri Ramakrishna said, if you're in a city famous for its gardens, but you only have like a few hours, and you want to go to the best garden, what do? You can't run around checking them all out to decide which one is the best, because your time will be wasted. So you call up the owner of the gardens. Say, which is your very best garden? Tell me, and I'll go there. And that's what the spiritual aspirant does when he calls on Ishvara or Shakti. He wants to know the very best and highest of the truth. He doesn't have time to explore all of this yet. So this is what a spiritual aspirant will do when they take refuge. That's what the Buddhists call it. The Sufis call it taking hand. We call it mantra diksha, initiation into the mantra. You could call it baptism. If the baptism, baptism can't just be a little sprinkling of water. You have to sprinkle fire, too. Sprinkling of water is okay, but you need to sprinkle fire on your initiate. That is disciplines and austerities. You should tell them, oh, just here, be pure, take a little water. Nonsense. That's baptism. But mantra diksha is, here, take some fire. And here's austerities you want to perform in order so you can see all this and cut yourself in the image again. You make yourself in the image of God, right there. So in this way, you're making connections that are very profound, very good for your spiritual evolution and your spiritual life, up to a point when evolution doesn't make sense anymore. Evolution and involution don't make sense anymore, and you get off the cycle and you just become one with your Father. That's what happened to Christ in the wilderness. And when he had that experience, he came out and said, I'm the light of the worlds. What else could he say? He saw the light of Brahman. I am the light of the worlds. He could only have said that after he had been in the forest for, like Buddha, for 40 days and 40 nights, and had the vision that was beyond evolution and involution, beyond the cycles. But he had to have known the cycles and connected them. That is, we said We said at the beginning of this class, salutations to the humans, right? Well, there they are. Salutations to the ancestors. Well, there they are. See? Salutations to the gods and goddesses. Well, there they are. See? Salutations to the rishis. Well, there they are. And salutations to the formless Brahman. There it is. See? One little chant, a peace chant, can give you the peace that passes all understanding. But you have to put together, take up a system and put it together, as the father of yoga said. You have to take up a philosophical system and commit to it. Choose any of those ones, you see, that India offers. There are 5 or 6 or 7, you see, right here that we've talked about in this series. You need to select one and practice it for the rest of your life. So commit to one. And take an ideal for that. So I'm going to do the 8-limbed yoga, then Patanjali's my ideal. I'm going to do the 8-limbed yoga, I'm going to get samadhi, and that's it. I'm going to destroy ignorance. If I'm going to take Kapila as my teacher, then I better start learning the 24 cosmic principles from the Mahat on down. And that would be evolution. And then I need to involute them back into where? Myself. Where else? Because they came from myself. And here's my higher self. Here's my individual self. And here's that ego self that's a problem. Right there. You see ego. My teacher used to say, and we have to stop here for a break, my teacher used to say, the ego is like an unwanted guest at a party. He comes early. He's not invited. He wants everyone to pay him attention. And when you ask him, when are you going home, he says, I'll think about it. That's the ego self that you want to replace with the pure self, that you want to replace with the higher self, until finally, as the Buddhists say, there's no self at all. There's just Buddha nature. So here we'll end for our break for 15 minutes. We will take prasad here, and I hope you'll do the same at home. Bless the food and drink that you take, and we'll come back in 15 minutes and finish up our series. Thank you for your kind attention. he's back. And we just were saying, I just want to continue on with exactly what we were saying at the break, because we had some nice Hawaiian pineapple and some fruits and things here for prasad, that sanctified food. And then we started talking immediately about this chart on causality. And we were in the middle of some of these quotes, and I wanted to read one or two more of them to kind of segue us into this again. But you can see here these slices, sort of like I'm a scientist and I'm slicing, making little gene slices, right, in little petri dishes. By the way, petri is the Sanskrit word for ancestor, so it works. Anyway, there's a slice of water and a slice of earth and flowers, and there's a slice of lava, and ocean, water, and fire. It's a slice of the celestial realms with the angels there, a slice of the upper cosmos, and so forth. So we'll see, like, each one of these is an echelon of consciousness. It's all come out of consciousness. And we want to take cause and effect, and time and space to a different dimension of understanding. We know how interesting it can be to entertain these thoughts in a scientific way of viewing things, like through evolution. But we don't know how to entertain them through the metaphysical level and beyond of involution. Science has evolution with an end. But to be fair to the traditions of the world, especially the religious ones, there must be an involution. So Lord Kapila, who gave us those 24 cosmic principles, said that there's a chain of evolutes starting from the cosmic mind down to Earth. See, that's right there. And then there's a reverse chain of evolutions from Earth back up to the cosmic mind. So this is what's called mental projection, or sankalpa and vikalpa. Basically, it's all done out of desire for life and activity. Brahman is stationary and in one place. It never moves. It's unchanging. It's pure and perfect. So it will never break into this, you see. Shakti somehow takes this static Paramashiva, if you want to put it in tantric terms, and allows it to express itself. See, this is all Brahman in expression. But as the individual soul comes down the ladder and takes on an individual self, and it begins to have a mind, fourfold mind, and it gets that desire for life and activity, and it comes under the subjection of the 5 subtle elements and the 3 gunas, and finally the 5 gross elements, and creates a body for itself and eats food, it begins to get further and further away. It's far flung from its source. So it's not just a big bang and then planets get far flung out into space. That's just on the physical level alone. But it's also the same. There's this big bang here in the word called Om. It got struck. And when it got struck, these things got far flung. It started out with very beautiful, deep things, you see, like the Mahat, cosmic mind. And then it got flung all the way back to the 5 elements. That's a long step from Ishvara to get to Earth, right? But Ishvara is the master of Earth. And you get to the Father through the Son. So you will take up a great form, which most people do in religion. Religion is mostly about form. It's very rare to get teachings on the formless Brahman or on Almighty Father. Where have you heard about the Almighty Father in Christendom? Who's studied it? Meister Eckhart did, and he almost got excommunicated for doing it. So there's very few great seers in the traditions, Judeo-Christian traditions, that spoke about Almighty Father. What to speak of their oneness with the Almighty Father? Only Christ could do that, you see. Well, it's fitting because he attained it. He realized his oneness with the Almighty Father. And that's good. But he said, be thee perfect as thy Father in heaven is perfect too. So obviously he wanted you also to realize that grand truth of oneness, of not two-ness, if you want to put it in the Zen way of saying, not two-ness, you know. So all of this has echelons and connections, and cause and effect is all about this. The kingdoms of heaven within you are all about this. My Father's mansion has many chambers. It's all about this. And it's about connecting your consciousness to it in a time when it has fallen far away from it and gotten far flung. To reschool the mind into thinking inwardly is to put together all these pieces of this cosmic puzzle and maybe even take it beyond the cosmic cause, right to the Word itself. Because in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's even in the Christian tradition that Christ was telling John that in the Garden of Gethsemane. You must meditate on this. And that was 2,000 years ago he was asking him to do this, you see. So it was important then. The Romans were on the scene. The Pharisees had lost the real essence of the Jewish tradition. All of this was going on, and this great avatar came and began to fill in the pieces again. You know, you've got loaves, you've got fish, you've got baskets, you've got wives, you've got huts, and you live on a river. Good for you, but you don't have an eternal life, sorry. Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. You can't just be fishers of fish and live a sense-based existence. You have to renounce the world, grant unto Caesar what is Caesar's, give up all your goods and follow me. See? And then you'll know the truth. Thou shalt know the truth, and the truth will set you free. He had this message down pat. And it was the message of the East. True, he was in the Middle East at the time, but he probably knew about the Far East. Vivekananda said, the sun has risen in the East. Hopefully, it sets in the West, right? So hopefully this great tradition that came from the East will pass through its phases of East, Middle East, Far East. Zen in Japan, for instance, is from India. After 32 generations, it reached India. So, it reached Japan. So, and then finally come West, full circle, you see, to inform us of this Sanatana Dharma of India. It's not just one system, as you can see here, but even if you studied one of India's Sanatana Dharma systems, you would have enough to settle all your karmic matters, to strike off your bondage with your ancestors and get free, to transcend the gods and goddesses and get free, and to, as Ram Prasad says in one of his beautiful songs, when will I be free? When will I enjoy the company of Jesus, Moses, Gauranga, Buddha? He includes beings from all religions in his song because he knows there's just really one religion. And it just has expressed itself in different ways. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vedanti. There's one truth. Seers call it by different names. It's one of the ancient sayings in the Rig Veda. The most ancient scripture, carbon dating-wise, that we know of. And there it is, the point about universality, that all religions are one. Seers just call it by different names. Ekam Sat, one truth. So if you want to reach that one truth, you're going to have to know the cosmology, the philosophy, and become spiritually inclined. If not, you're going to be satisfied with food, vital energy, sperm, ovum, physical body, 10 senses, and a human brain, and zip at the end. No connecting back involution to your source. In fact, just reincarnating pretty much in this, right in this cycle. That's what the Buddha called Kala Chakra, or samsara, cycle of birth and death in ignorance. In ignorance of what? Well, of your true nature as one with Brahman, but also of all the steps in between. All these kingdoms of heaven within you, ignorant of them. Maybe you've heard of them by mere mention, but you have no way to place them, you haven't experienced them yourself, and you don't know how they fit in the scheme of the Lord's mansion. You don't know all these chambers in God's mansion. So then you go meditating on them and you connect them. So we'll get to that. Let's read what Holy Mother says about this. The moment that cause and effect, nimitta, causality, comes to an end, one realizes God. She did not mince words. She's so simple and so straightforward. The minute cause and effect come to an end, one realizes God. She goes on, that is one's last birth. Thus, this plus the practice of spiritual discipline and time are the main factors in the attainment of spiritual knowledge. Last night I stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning making a chart of that saying. It's called the 3 factors leading to enlightenment. So basically it's time, practice, and neutralizing of karmas. As far as we're concerned here, that's the 3 factors for enlightenment, for us to get beyond these levels of material, efficient, and primordial cause, and get to our intelligence and free ourselves. Buddha named himself after this, you see. So it must be very important. In fact, he called divine reality Pragya Param. They said Buddha didn't have a name for God? Nonsense. There it is in the Dhammapada, the first scripture of Buddhism, Pragya Param. Swami Vivekananda brings that out. So he didn't want to mention God. Does God exist? Did I say God exists? Then God doesn't exist. Did I say God doesn't exist? That was his line of reasoning, you see. But Pragyaparam, I am awakened, you see. Ananda said, are you a man? No. Are you a God? No. Are you of this earth? No, you see. What are you then? I'm awakened. It was all he would assign himself to. See, he was Prabhuda Bharata, he was awakened India. And he was the greatest exemplar of that 550 years before Jesus set foot on the earth. Jesus' forerunner, if you will. So it wasn't just John the Baptist. See, these great souls have forerunners, or forerunners for each other throughout these periods of time. And time is really kind of the point here, Kala. See, Shiva is named Kala. Mother Kali is named Kala. See, so time is really at the very hub of this, and like I said, we need to meditate on it as a cosmic principle, not just passing of seconds, increments of time in moments and seconds and days and hours and months and years of our life, because this is just keeping us caught in time. But if you meditate on time as a very high principle, you're already at the cosmic cause of things. And you're encountering things like form and formlessness. So you sit and you think in time, I have a form, but my Guru told me my consciousness is formless. Brahman is formless. And Shakti is formless too, but she can take forms, you see. So you begin to contemplate very high dualities like that. Higher cognizance comes to you. You know what time, space, and causation are the origins for all of this. You know the cosmic laws, the phases of time, and the power of attraction, so that you can attract yourself accordingly and stay clear of unhealthy or unholy attachments. And the individual soul is now your own possession. You see, I've kind of arrived to back up my own self. So she's very clear about that. Take some time to do this, but you have to use the time to do what? Practice. Then, when you practice, your karmas will get destroyed. So it's going to take time for your karmas to occur to you. Why I am the way I am. What's impeding me? Why can't I make spiritual progress? Why can't I meditate? Why is my mind always restless? The more you become attached to God, the more you will realize peace. The more you become attached to the world, the more you will suffer. She said that. Sharade. A Sharade keeps the illness away. Sharada Devi. So there she is, you see, right on the wall behind me, here over our altar, you see. When Einstein said Gandhi was the most holy man that ever walked the earth, my teacher said, whatever the case may be, but he said, the most holy woman that ever walked the earth is there, and she's Sharada Devi. I've seen her face, I've heard her voice, I've touched her feet. Now I long for her grace with all my heart. This was a 90-year-old monk who said this to me. 90-year-old celibate monk, see, worshipper of the Divine Mother of the Universe. Sri Ramakrishna said of her, she's Kali, Durga, Saraswati, and Lakshmi, all in one in this age. She's a manifestation of all the great goddesses in this day and age. So in her very simple, humble way, she can give you a teaching with great impact upon you. And just hearing something like that can put time, practice, and neutralization of karmas all together. See, because karmas are going to be happening right there. See, the subtle cause is the desire for activity. With the desire of activity and attachment to life, which are two of the yamas and niyamas of yoga, right? Then comes all of this suffering. Suffering means pleasure. See? So suffering and pleasure happen from there on down. But if the mind is clear and it has its intelligence intact, then it's just nothing but inner realizations, insights, visions, peace, bliss, love, light. So those things occur to the soul. And he or she is just wending his way towards the ultimate cause, or a causeless cause, if you want to put it that way. Here, Lord Vashishta says, if higher knowledge is not already in the soul, then rebirth continues, and there is no other recourse than to suffer cause and effect. Even striving for light will not bestow any real benefit, for to seek enlightenment without the mantra, the teachings, and the guru is like trying to grow crops only at night. He said this to Sri Ramachandra when he was a teenager. Have you read Yoga Vashishta? It's a cult classic. There are people who don't even know much about India. You go online and you look up his name, and there are people who follow him, even though they don't know anything about India. They're following Lord Vashishta's teaching, that one scripture. That's how profound it is and what a great effect it's made on some of us, some of the Westerners here in this day and age. So, he says, if knowledge is not already in the soul, then rebirth continues. So you must reach this intelligence. You see, you must reach this cause of knowledge, vidya. And you must pay it forward, or pay it backwards, if you want, because this is forwards. Pay it outside, back into your embodied life and your embodied existence, to clear all karmas. You have a karma with water because you drowned several lifetimes. You have a karma with fire because you got burnt up. You have a karma with earth because you died in a landslide. You've got karmas with these 5 elements. So you meditate on them, according to the father of yoga, and you free yourself from fear. What is freedom of fear? It's knowledge. Knowledge will destroy fear, like nothing else. Nahi jnanena sadrishyam pavitram iha vidyate, tat yoga svaya samsiddha. See, so, kalain atmani vindate, so Krishna says, in all the worlds there's no purifier like that of knowledge, Arjuna. The wise realize this in time. The wise realize this fact in time. Another beautiful saying of Sri Sharda Devi, those men and women who have come to the Master and I, she's talking about Bengal, Calcutta in the late 1800s, mid 1800s to late 1800s. Those men and women who have come to the Master and I have not come here for fun. They know how precious the human body is and what an opportunity it is to realize God. So they're not wasting time with frivolities. They're not caught in this cycle, you see, being born again and again with worldly parents, ignorant parents who never teach you anything worthwhile. So all of these great souls listed here, from Sri Sharda Devi, Lord Vashishta, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Krishna, and so forth, they have become masters of time, space, and causation. They know where the origins to everything are in levels. And therefore, their reincarnation is going to be fully conscious every time. And they won't accept anything less. Well, don't you just want to have a little ignorance when you reincarnate? No. I'll come back fully conscious or not at all. So these two charts I wanted to show together for the final class. Omkara, the great cause, or what would be called the remote cause here, and the whole echelon, the whole pecking order, I want to say, the trickle-down process, I like to say, of consciousness as it leaves its pristine abode and gets far-flung down through names and forms and objects and time and space. Another thing she said is, this world is a great mire. Even Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva suffer here. They gasp in it. So when Ishvara gets born as an avatar on earth, they suffer. She used to say, worldly people, they don't suffer. It's the devotees who suffer. Number one, they know that they've been separated from their Lord, you see, and so they rue that separation. They want nothing more than to get back to the Lord and Mother of the Universe, to unite there. And all of this is 100-year play in time. See, they go on rotting away in the body, she says, without any longing or yearning to get back to their source. So if it's come to that, then life is, man has been born to no purpose if he has failed to use this body to realize God in this lifetime. Born to no purpose. What have you ever gathered from this plane of existence that was eternal, abiding, truly beneficial? Nothing. It's all just come and gone, and like sand or water through the fingers, you see. It's only when you begin to rise to these higher levels that you begin to find the treasures that you've been seeking your whole life. There are souls that can spend whole times here. There are souls whose goal is here. Vaishnavas don't want to get beyond Krishna. What an odd thought, they would think. Go seek, O mind, go seek Vrindavan in your heart. For with his loving devotees, Sri Krishna sports eternally. So they want to go to the heart of the matter, to the Vrindavan in the heart, you see, and sport with Krishna forever. They'll be perfectly happy doing that. But as Vivekananda says here, the Advaitas want formless realization. They want to dissolve, and they want to be conscious when they dissolve. And they feel that that's the only way they'll really, truly know the Lord in all his play, is if they've had that experience of nirvikalpa, or what Buddha called nirvana. Near, 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 near. Near, near. So, nirvikalpa, blown out, made extinct. Nirvikalpa. You see, all kalpas, all phases of time have been rendered extinct. Nirvana, again, made extinct. So, that beauteous, formless vision is what they're holding out for. They want to have that. So they'll meditate forever. A beautiful song in India that says, with dazzling brilliance, the Holy Mother sparkles inside the heart. Therefore the yogis meditate in the dark mountain cave. So they'll go into a dark mountain cave and just concentrate on her, because if they're out in the sun and they have this experience, you see, then maybe the sun might take away some of the beauty of that, intensity of that light. But if they're in a dark mountain cave where the senses cannot interfere whatsoever, then this dazzling brilliance of the Divine Mother will be all the more emphasized and pronounced, more intense, you see. Another song, sort of a complement to that, saying even the yogis don't see her in their many, many lifetimes of meditation. She's most difficult to envision. She's most difficult to see. That's why she's called Durga. Durga means difficult. Divine Mother of the Universe with her 10 arms or 16 arms and all these weapons, she's difficult, you see. and she will destroy all the egos, see, that project themselves into these worlds. And all the gods and goddesses and deities that, if they array against her, then she's going to come with her sword of wisdom and cut them away. That's why she's standing with a bloody head. I'm already getting into next series class next month, meeting Mother Kali. But these are profound significances which have a very direct bearing on this, because although we haven't spoken a lot about her, there's Divine Mother Shakti. Of course, we've talked a lot about Sharda and manifestation, but Divine Mother Shakti is at the hub of and in control of all the worlds of name and form and time and space. She's that progenitress, or that most primal and primeval of all forms, who has all this at her beck and call. See? And she winks at you and says, go ahead, go down and play in those worlds of name and form, but never forget where you came from. To forget where you came from means you forgot all these stages of your own descent, your own descent. See? This was a divine descent. See? So the ascent has to be the same. It has to be a sacred ascent, a divine descent and a sacred ascent. Never forget where you came from, she says. It's in a song. I went to the Divine Mother. I said, I want to go down and play in your wonderful name, worlds of name and form. And she said, she winked at me and said, go ahead. So the wink means, never forget where you came from. Or she said, I am the mother of the virtuous, I'm also the mother of the wicked. Whenever you're in problem or have trouble, just say to yourself, I have a mother. So, a good way to end this chart, which we've gone at much longer than I expected to. I wanted to show you the Brahmakala, or Brahmachakra, too. Let's look at that next. And hold on to your, whatever you're wearing, your hats, your dhotis, your chutters, as we'll take a whirlwind tour through this. The Brahmachakra is the grand Vedic wheel. Probably nothing much more ancient than that as a system. We've seen a system here that's very profound. It includes elements of Vedanta and Samkhya in it. But here you'll see that ancient Vedas, probably pretty much before the word Vedanta got coined, in a sense, or before it became a developed philosophy under the hands of Vedavyas. But back in the ancient Vedic times, they were thinking in very profound systems. And this is right out of the Svetashvatara Upanishad. He was an ancient rishi. He says here, that is Svetashvatara says, some deluded thinkers speak of nature, others of time, as the force that revolves the grand wheel of life. But all of this is just the glory of God manifested in the world. So long as the jiva, that's the embodied soul, imagines separation from Brahman, jiva, Brahman, he imagines separation from him, so long does he continue to spin on the cosmic wheel, enjoying and suffering experiences there. He gains freedom when he realizes his oneness with Brahman, like Christ in the wilderness, and Buddha under the bo tree. So, the very words out of the Upanishad, we think of Brahman as a grand wheel, whose every revolution gives rises to twos, who has a triple tire, 16 extremities, 50 spokes, is driven along 3 different roads, has 20 counter spokes, and 6 sets of 8s. That's how the sloka reads. Imagine seeing that in the Svetashvatara Upanishad and saying, what are they talking about, right? So you'd have to know a little bit about this ancient India, the Sanatana Dharma of India, to make some sense out of that. I've tried to help here. The Brahman is a great wheel, whose every revolution gives rise to 2. So this wheel is turning, this great wheel of life, if you want to call it that. It's turning, and when it gives rise to 2 means happiness and sorrow, virtue and vice, good and bad, pleasure and pain, life and death, all the dualities are there in those twos. They're all potential, and they will be the effect of life in these causes. It has triple tires. So, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are its triple tires, the three gunas. I was saying at the break of all of this chart we looked at, we don't really know the tanmatras in the West, and we don't know the three gunas. So we could just erase those out of here, you see, and look at it and say, the rest of it I think I understand. There's a fourfold mind, there's thought, there's ego, there's higher consciousness, there's the human body, and there's science, and there's biology and all that. I think I understand that, but we cannot understand tamas, rajas, and sattva, and audibility, tangibility, visibility, flavor, and odor. That is, we can't understand how the eyes see, how the ears hear, how the tongue tastes, how the mind thinks. And the prana, the 5 life forces by which they operate, is also rather missing. That's why Christ was telling them, man does not live by bread alone, because he wanted to bring them into recognition of these 5 kinds of prana that were causing the eyes to see, that were causing the ears to hear, that were causing the tongue to taste, that were causing the food to get digested, causing the waste to get excreted, causing the mind to go to higher realms, causing the mind to get depressed. All of these are the reason for these. Your mind's getting depressed because it fell into inertia. It's called tamas. See, it's Mr. Thomas's neighborhood. Then you get to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, and you're all restless, you see. Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. But it's not till you get to Mrs. Sattva's neighborhood that you find some balance, you see. So all of these 3 gunas are circling in your mind all the time. There's triple tires upon which this whole Brahma wheel are running, founded on these 3 gunas. The gunas are in equilibrium, no problem. As soon as they break into disequilibrium at a very high level, see, then all of this happens. It's not until the gunas break into disequilibrium that everything gets dicey. Name and form happens, and time and space kick in, and so forth. And if you don't understand that, then read the Yoga Sutras, because Patanjali is talking about it much, much later, in like 140 BC. I'm sorry, 140 AD. He's talking about these 3 gunas and how tamas, rajas, and sattva have broken into disequilibrium. So the mind then gets restless, and it gets inert, and then it also gets happy. See? When we say sattva, it's not the highest good. See? Sattva means you're a happy animal. But to get beyond sattva, you have to get pure sattva. It means instead of enjoying things in a balanced state of mind, you want to use time to neutralize your karmas via practice, don't you? That's pure sattva. So rajas, tama, and sattva are all chains that hold. One of iron, one of gold. See? So you've got chains that are binding you, and happiness is one of them. It's been a teaching in Vedic darshana right on through to Buddhism. Suffering is. You get these positive, negative, or these positive, negative teachings that have to be looked at, that are slaps in the face or cold water in your face. And this is meant to wake you up. It's the only thing that will wake you up. Certainly circling around this wheel with its extremities and its complacencies and so forth is not going to wake you up. Be good for you to see these charts side by side, see, and look at them as systems. So I could have brought a chart on the 3 gunas, but that's for another series. So it's got one felly. So the revolving felly of this wheel is called nature or Maya. You see, and we see that up here, pretty much at the very top of the cosmic cause. So it's got this one felly. It every revolution of that felly gives rise to twos, and those twos run along a triple tire called the three gunas. Clear enough now? Look into those. The oneness, the two-ness, the three-ness, numerically speaking, philosophically speaking, would be good to look at. Now it also then, after the triple tire, it has these 16 extremities. What does he mean by that? They're pretty much the vikritis of Samkhya Yoga. In other words, manas is manas here. Gyanendriyas here. That is the knowledge senses. And karmendriyas, the active senses, they're here and here. And then the 5 elements, mahabhutas. That is mind, hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, speaking, feeling, moving, procreating, and excreting. Those are the 16 extremities of this wheel. So beings coming into form via this wheel, rotating on a wheel, and every time they rotate, a series of twos are being produced that they're going to enjoy or suffer through the three gunas. And it's going to produce, the reason for that is because mind and the senses are enjoying the elements. See? So this is called the Brahma Chakra, the wheel of birth and death. It's Brahman's own wheel. Back in Vedic times, they're not pointing a finger at it and calling it Maya. See, they're saying this is Brahman with form. That's the beautiful thing about the ancient Vedic time is somewhere along the way in India, the monks got a hold of a lot of this. The monastic schools came into being, matured their philosophies, and began to impose those on the thinking process of people. But before that was happening, Svetashvatara, backwards, these were all rishis who were householders. They had children. They were passing on the wisdom of the Dharma to their children. And this eventually was what brought monks to be born. That is, great souls began to be born amongst householders like Svetashvatara in a line of virtuous dharmic parents and got taught these great teachings. And then when these great souls got a hold of these great teachings, then these periods of Samkhya, Vedanta, Buddhism, yoga kicked in, you see. And how the teachings got treated by these different echelons of soul became these systems for India's Sanatana Dharma. So talk about cause and effect only on the philosophical level. There was plenty to look at and to admire there in India. So my point with all of that was just that they're not saying that this is like Buddha later, all suffering prone. They're saying that this is God with form. Take it or leave it. See? When God comes into form, this is what happens. And it can get even more complex. Let's look at the 50 spokes of this tire. 5 viparyayas, 28 ashaktis, 9 tushtis, and 8 siddhis. In other words, the fallacies of life, the disabilities of the whole of the body-mind mechanism, the contentments of the mind, which are not a good thing, because these are like complacencies, might be a good word, and the 8 occult powers. I just finished a chart 2 nights ago called 8 occult powers and Dharma Mega Samadhi, because Father of Yoga pitted the two against each other. And Vivekananda used to quote the Father of Yoga saying, when man outgrows the 8 occult powers, then Dharma Mega Samadhi happens to him. Cloud of virtues. Dharma Mega Samadhi means rain cloud of virtues. So people aren't getting to their virtuous nature because they're attracted to power. It's basically what's being said. And the 8 occult powers, even back then, were seen as spokes of this wheel. Something to be cautious of. You know how Sri Ramakrishna called them. They're like crow droppings by the side of the road. No serious spiritual aspirant's going to take to them. My teacher later said, if you want God, if you want peace, you get God, but if you want power, you get Rolls Royces. So there are those who go after power, and there's those who go after God. See, and it should be fairly obvious to you which ones those are. So in ancient Vedic period, these Astabalasiddhas were looked upon as spokes of this wheel along this valley, run by these triple tire, that gave rise to twos, dualities all the time. And it sounds like a critical teaching, but again I emphasize, this is God with form to them. This is how they looked at it. This is how the rishis of ancient times looked at it and said, this is how God is manifesting in form. And if you knew what God with form consisted of, or had some idea, I mean, this is an 8 by 11 blown up to a 24 by 36, so I could have crammed more on there, I'm sure, if I had the space. But this will give you a good reckoning of how the rishis meditated and what they meditated upon and how they filled in the gaps. I mean, here we are in the body thinking I'm a human being. Then there's God somewhere. See? So take the human being away from the animal, or take the animal out of the human being, and maybe you'll have an enlightened soul there, right? When the enlightened soul, is one with God. So see the jump there? But what about all these echelons in the middle that you jumped? Sri Ramakrishna used to say that. If you can jump from the lowest step to the highest step, then you must be a very good high jumper. But you'll never know what the middle steps consisted of if you do that. That is, lower steps made of brick, cement, dust, lime, right? Higher steps made of brick, cement, dust, and lime. But you can never make sure if the middle steps consist of brick, dust, lime, and cement and all that, and stone, if you hadn't have stepped on them and walked them and inspected them, you see. So this is kind of what I'm saying here. Even in ancient Vedic time, they had looked very deeply. And back when Egypt was still mummifying its kings for an afterlife and putting food and killing slaves around them, the Indians, the Hindus, the ancient Aryans knew that birth and death were an illusion. And that Brahman was the only reality. And when it came into form, this is how they described it. They weren't pulling any punches. See? There's good, there's bad, and there's mixed in this. Just read Krishna's Gita, and you'll get that clarified for yourself. Good, bad, and mixed karma. That's what runs all of this, you see. That's what happens from karma on down, right? And this is the cause of it all, so you can't go around anymore saying, why did God do this to me? Or why is nature so unfair? Why is life so unfair? Where's the meaning in life? Those things get erased from your mind when you study. There's a saying in India, Swami Vivekananda used to quote, said, every child knows that if he doesn't study, he'll get whipped soundly and be put to bed without dinner. So you study your lessons, or nature's going to whip you soundly and put you to bed, that's called death, without supper. And you'll find yourself on the wheel again, coming up again on the wheel of birth and death, samsara. That's a sorry soul who's in samsara, I'll tell you. All right, so obviously I'm not going to go into the 28 Ashaktis here and tell you what they all are, but you can see that those are disabilities, natural disabilities in the system. It's a great teaching video from mind on down. The reason why the world is imperfect is because the mind's imperfect. There's no such thing as a perfect mind. Cosmic mind isn't even perfect because it's given towards projection, right? It's the purest kind of projection at that level, but you'd have to go to that level of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva and stay with them to escape what happens later because of their power to project. So at that level, Mahat is pure and sattvic, very pure and sattvic. That's Lord Brahma's doing, is to create worlds of near perfection. But the minute the mind projects, there's imperfection in it. And it's going to be specifically true from the human mind on down. This world is imperfect because it came from our mind, and our mind's imperfect. So you don't go about trying to make the mind perfect in my tradition. You realize that it's imperfect by nature, and you transcend it. If you found out your body was imperfect and subject to illness and disease and everything, wouldn't you want to get out of it and save yourself from the suffering? It's the same when you get to the level of the mind and intellect, that they have inherent imperfections in them. Inherent imperfections. You know, you say can't really purify that mind. Pure mind is another station that you rise to. That's up here, you see, and beyond. So this is an important point to make in the mind-only schools, that the disabilities out here, the ashaktis, the viparyayas, the tushtis and so forth, are obvious and manifest because of this great wheel, you see. These imperfections are inherent in them. If you enter into the realm of name and form, you will suffer. It's like, that's what they're saying. Which is why Buddha said the first noble truth is, there is suffering. And why Holy Mother said, the suffering of this world has gotten into the very marrow of my bones. They have 5, 7, 12, 14 children. Some of them die. They suffer horribly, but they won't give up. The mother crab stays down in her hole. Why? Because of her progeny down there. They'll never come up and see the sunlight. So it's a matter of choice for the individual soul. So what choice is he going to make? If she ventures down into these worlds of name and form, better observe that wink from the Divine Mother and remember where you come from. Remember your divine nature. And then you're protected, you see, here. Otherwise, this Brahmachakra is no joke. Right? You enter into the world of name and form, you've got, they say it right out the front, every revolution gives rise to two on it. Every time you go around it, you've got another duality. Dvandva Mohina, Arjuna, is the famous saying in the Gita by Krishna. Beware of the pairs of opposites. Good, bad, pleasure, pain, virtue and vice, life and death, joy and sorrow. You can go on naming them. See? Virtue and vice alone, you see. That's why it's probably one of the most oppressive. Virtue and vice alone bind people. And they bind them at the religious level too. How many people are bound in the virtue and vice at the religious level? The soul is sinless. There's no such thing as virtue and vice in your Atman. And you are your Atman. But if you think you're your mind is entertaining dualities like virtue and vice, then you can never rise above being a good boy or a bad boy. And your parents are going to reward you for being a good boy and punish you for being a bad boy. And this is how you're going to grow up, with this kind of ideology and thinking, never knowing that beyond both good and bad and name and form is Atman, ever free. Know thou art that. So life and death is another one of those pairs of opposites. Heed no more how body lives and goes, its task is done, let karma float it down. Let one put flower garlands on, another kick this frame, say not. No praise or blame can be where praise or praised and blame or blamed are one. So add praise and blame to the whole thing. Add merit and demerit. See? These dualities keep people bound. And they think about them all the time and they brood on them. That's why when you're enjoying something, you can never really enjoy something because you know that enjoyment's going to end and suffering's going to come. Somewhere inside of you, you know this. So you can't really enjoy yourself, see, not for very long. And the opposite is also true. You know that when you're suffering, pleasure is just around the corner. So it's the three gunas, really, there. You see, inertia, activity, and balance. Around and round it goes on this triple tire. All right. It's driven along 3 different roads. This whole vehicle. See, now we've described the vehicle, right? It's sort of like an automobile. Think of it. You see, it's got tires and it's got distributor belt, and it's run along with some gas and everything. You can put it perfectly into the analogy of just an automobile and how it runs. So it's running along this road, 3 different roads it tends to go on: Jnanam, Dharma, and Adharma. Jnana means wisdom. If it has higher wisdom, intelligence, then it can get to the cause of wisdom, Vidya, and it can get to the mother of wisdom herself. Jnanini, see, the Jagat Janini, the divine mother of the universe, from who all intelligence comes. And her intelligence creates all of this. You don't see it that way down here. You don't see the tree as intelligence, but it's really just thought. Trees, forests, whole planets full of forests are just a thought in her mind about tree. See, it's back in seed form. She knows that because she knows unmanifested Prakriti, right? Right? Dun, 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 dun. Unmanifested Prakriti, seed form of nature, is in her. She controls it. And when nature gets watered with thought and intelligence, then it'll break into seeds. And these seeds will become grosser, 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 until finally they're the seeds for making trees and grass and carrots. Drink plenty of carrot juice. But meditate on the source of carrots. So these 3 roads, Jnanam, wisdom, and then Dharma and Adharma. Now these could be added to these 2 pretty easily. Virtue and vice, higher and lower, knowledge and ignorance. But they're putting them in as a trio here. Jnanam will fuel Dharma, and Jnanam will keep you away from Adharma. The subject of my talk today is India's Sanatana Dharma. So Dharma is at the under inspection here, you see. So Dharma has an opposite called Adharma. Never be a detractor to Dharma, Krishna tells Arjuna. Krishna tells Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita. Never be a detractor of the Dharma. Always be its supporter. So you'll be the supporter to Dharma through wisdom, through this Dharmic wisdom. Then you can tell your children, you can tell your friends, you can grow up and tell your parents, like I did, that there's a higher life to be lived. See? Best thing you can do for your father and mother is go back to them after you grow up and you've gotten the Dharma and teach them the Dharma. Tell them about it so that they won't have to be born again without it. Or go to heaven and come back to earth. Kind of a glib topic for the Vedantists, going to heaven. Vivekananda said it's a glib topic. We don't entertain it. Heaven is somewhere in here. See? And the gods are lording over heaven. The ancestors are looking up to the gods. The humans are looking up to the ancestors. The animals are looking up to the humans. The plants are looking up to the animals. Please don't pee on me. See? So everything looks up to this next higher echelon, you see. So when it gets to humans, look up to the ancestors are looking to the celestials are looking up to the gods and goddesses. That's looking in, really. And the gods and goddesses are looking up to the Trinity. See? And the Trinity's Ishvara. See? And Ishvara is just the sons of the mother. See? Why are there so many men? Because they're her sons. They're the mind-born sons of Lord Brahma. So this is a step-in process, involution style, to the source. And these 3 roads then are going to be very crucial, how you steer yourself along the realms of name and form and time and space, called the Brahmachakra. See, this, how you drive this whole mechanism called God with form. They had an eye towards that. Later on, the eye was more toward the formless Brahman when the monks came, you see, and the capacity grew to actually envision the formless God. But early on, they had a very keen eye peeled towards how to live life to the fullest in the realms of name and form. They perfected this art probably before anyone else did. And that's why, to this day, the Hindus are the most virtuous and dharmic people on earth, even in the present state of India. So this has been very ancient, it's rooted deep in their samskaras, and the philosophy that came out of it is unmatched and unrivaled in the three worlds. Unmatched and unrivaled. Nothing to compare to this. For 5 years I've been trying to put it onto little pieces of paper, and I've gotten up to 250 pieces. And I still haven't scratched the surface of what the Dharma is and how much of it there is. I went to India and learned 250 songs, and I still haven't scratched the surface of how many rishis put great teachings into songs. Jafar, this great songwriter, this great luminary, says, I've gone from the heavens, the higher heavens, to the lowest hells and to earth. Everywhere I go, I see nothing but you. All that exists art thou, O Lord. All that exists art thou. So that's how the rishis looked at God with form. For all intents and purposes, it was maybe only the very few of them that got a glimpse of God beyond form, Brahman, that had Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I mean, among the 16 apostles of Sri Ramakrishna, only a few had the vision of Nirvikalpa, had the experience of highest Samadhi. So how rare that's going to be to have Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the vision of the formless reality, and come back to tell anyone about it. They asked Sri Ramakrishna about that. What is it like to have Nirvikalpa Samadhi? He's gone. He got one word out of his mouth and went into it. See? Because to remember the experience of going into oneness was so overwhelmingly blissful that in the sensitivity of this suggestion of just even thinking about Brahman, he would get pulled into it. One time they got him to explain it. He said, now don't go into Samadhi, please, Master. I'm going to ask you again. Now, hold on, keep your consciousness here. I'm going to ask you again, what's it like to get into Nirvikalpa Samadhi? He said, well, I felt like I was a salt doll walking into the ocean, and I was going to be the first one to measure its depths. But when I got in, I melted away, and there was no one left to measure it. Nobody can ever say what Brahman is that way. It can't be spoken. It can only be inferred and pointed to by these great souls and by these great systems. So as far as God with form is concerned, this is a very enlightening teaching. It will elucidate everything you need to watch for and some very important things tools, both. It's not just one-sided, all is bliss, love, and light here with no roses with no thorns. This is the way we've seen it with our ancient eye, you see. And we've described it this way to you, so you know what to be careful of and what to take to get out of it, what to take to transcend it. When there are a few remaining minutes, let's finish up. It's got 20 counter spokes. That is, support pegs or wedges in this machine that support these 50 spokes. They're counter spokes. It'd be like having a big bicycle wheel with supporting spokes on the other main spokes. They're called the dasindriyas, and they're 10 sense objects. So they're right there. You'll see the senses, the 10 senses. Dasa Indriyas means 10 senses. So you've got seeing, tasting, touching, hearing, smelling, and procreating, and excreting, and moving, and so forth. All of those things are these counter spokes inside of this great wheel of Brahman. And 6 sets of 8. That's 48 things here. They're called the Ashtagas. There's Pratkriyastika, Datvastika, Aishvarastika, Bhavastika, Devastika, and Gunastika. Gunastika. That is, there's the eightfold nature, there's 8 body ingredients, there's 8 psychic powers, there's 8 mental states, there's 8 superhuman beings, and 8 virtues of the soul. So the eightfold nature is, of course, ether, air, fire, water, earth, mind, and intellect, and ego. Pure Astika body, it's called by Krishna in the Gita. It's one of the earliest systems to measure something that wasn't quite as expansive as this. Krishna said, I have my pure Astika body. It's the 5 elements and the threefold mind is basically what it is. So that's how they were thinking back then. The body has 8 ingredients: external skin, internal skin, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, semen. So, charma, tvak, ashrik, mamsa, medas, asti, maja, and sukra. Sukra is sperm. So it's got these listed early on. 8 ingredients of the body, which potentially took later, much later, and built up his healing system around that, see, and based some of his healing system on that. Because Patanjali was out for your health, physical health, as well as he was for your spiritual health. He was one of those rare beings that, like Vashishta, you say Vashishta on one side of the bookend of time, and Patanjali on the other side of the bookend of time. These were 2 souls that were there for your spiritual realization, for your philosophical clarification, for your mental clarity, for your awakening of your prana and energy, and for the health of your body. All 5 of those, they were the real holistic healers of this world. True holistic healers, Vashishta and Patanjali. There were some that went in between, but those are the 2 bookends as far as history will tell right now. So he's very interested in the ingredients of the body. Then the 8 psychic powers, that's these occult powers: invisibility, weightlessness, expansiveness, satisfaction, glorification, domination, attraction, and enjoyment. 8 occult powers have some very, very serious tales to tell us. Like, for instance, just take glorification, Mahima. If I want to make myself look really good for all those women out there, or for all those men, so I'm going to paint myself up, and I'm going to make myself look much different than I really am. Inside I'm really an ogre, but outside I'm going to make myself look really good to them. That's glorification. The Tantras would call that vainglory. Meet both men and women nowadays in the spiritual path who say, that's cheating. I want to know who's really there. So I think it's really deceptive to make yourself look other than what you really are. If you're not so good, just show your not so goodness. And try and better yourself. But don't try and cover it up. So that's an occult power. Domination is my favorite. That is the one I like to hate the most. Because it's war. Don't get me started. 26 battleships sailed into my islands here about a month ago. 1 from each country. Think I like that? That's domination over the world. See? Oh, we're against terrorists. See? Well, let's hear what the terrorists have to say. Why are they so against you? Eye for an eye makes a whole world blind. Sell guns, but don't make any bullets. Find some solution for this violence you're committing against each other. right and wrong are just two, a belt that goes round and round all the time. And there's no solution in either one of them. Good and bad, right and wrong, virtue and vice. You're taking the wrong approach. Take the approach that the Atman is in everyone and in everything. Then maybe I'll listen to you. See, because then you'll have some good sense. And then fill it in, what exists between the body and the Atman. And inform yourself. Then maybe I'll listen to you. Then there's and we're almost finished here, Bhavastika, the 8 mental states. These are interesting. I wish we could spend more time on these, but righteousness, unrighteousness, knowledge, ignorance, renunciation, attachment, divine powers, and the lack of powers are the 8 mental states. So 1 for each side, 4 positive, 4 negative. It's like Sri Krishna saying in the Gita, that one who has knowledge also has ignorance. That one who has ignorance always also is aware of knowledge. So these are, again, what the Brahmacharya started off with. This great wheel started off with this belt that's always producing 2s, therefore confusing the human being. There are 8 superhuman beings. Lord Brahma, Prajapati, the teacher of the gods, who's a human, by the way, the Devas and Devis, those are the gods and goddesses, the Gandharvas, they're the celestial musicians, the Yakshas and Rakshasas, and those are the demonic beings, the Pitris, the ancestors, and the Pischa, the Pishachas. They are mentioned, some of these words are very ancient Gita words. Some of these beings were being warred upon by Ram in the Ramayana. He would go to the forest and kill some of these demons that were giving problems to villages and so forth. So these are beings that are occupying echelons. Some of these demons are in subtle realms, some of them are in gross realms. Human beings are like that too. Sometimes they're embodying as asuras, and they come back to the earth as very dominating humans that are not very good to human beings and are violent. So they want to, in this system, want you to know about these beings, but predominantly they want you to know about Lord Brahma, Ishvara, and they want you to know about Prajapati, the master of intelligence who teaches the gods. Prajapati is very interesting because he is a human who became enlightened, therefore he teaches the gods. So it's again one of those instances where human beings transcend the realm of gods and goddesses, and then the gods and goddesses go to him or her, as the case may be, and he becomes a cosmic being that lives through all the cycles. Everyone goes to Prajapati to learn the secrets of the Dharma. Even the gods and goddesses do. And finally, or penultimately, Devastika, 8 superhuman beings. Oh, we just did those, sorry. And finally, 8 virtues of the soul, Gunastika, compassion, forbearance, non-jealousy, purity, non-fatigue, freedom from poverty, and desirelessness, according to the ancient rishis, were these eight virtues of the soul. Back in that time, then you saw that their 2 ideals were pretty much like Nishrayas. They wanted to attain all wealth and then give it away. At the end of their life, they didn't want to own anything. So it wasn't like, let's gain wealth, master over nature, get everything and hoard it and think I can take it with me after death, or not even think about death. It was, let's get everything that nature has to offer, collect it, share it with each other, and give it away at the time of our death. I don't want anything holding me back from going back to my source, so I'm going to make sure I have no goods, no possessions in my possession after I leave this body, or as I leave this body. So that's about all the time we have for this 5th and final class of India's Sanatana Dharma, but it does leave us with a very good taste in our mouth, that is our spiritual mouth, about the profundity and depth of several of these systems of Sanatana Dharma that have been shown here in these storyboards or these charts. So these can be looked back on by the live streaming audience and by those here present if you want to take more time with the pause button and view the charts and fill in some of these gaps in our thinking process that will be so good and healthy for our spiritual lives. You'll see that all of this knowledge is known to you already. All you need to do is speak the word and think the thought, and it'll come rushing back to you. It isn't going to take a lot to bring this all back to you if you're a sensitive person. All of this is lodged inside of our mind, from cosmic to collective to individual. It's all there. And it's accessible. We just need to put forth a little energy to do that accessing, to secure it for ourselves. So here let's end with a chant. Om Bhadram, Om Bhadram Karnebihi Srinayama Devaha Bhadram Pasyema Akshabir Yajatraha Sthiraya Rangaish Tushtivamsas Tanavir Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti Na Indra Rida Shravaha Swasti Nahapusha Vishwadevaha Swasti Nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti No Brihaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we see with these eyes what is good and spiritual. May we hear with these ears what is noble and uplifting. And may we, while worshiping the Lord and the Mother of the universe, with healthy minds and bodies, live a life which is beneficial to ourselves and to all other beings. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.